The lecture hall of the Galactic Institute stretched 300 meters in diameter. Its curved walls lined with environmental pods calibrated for 17 different atmospheric compositions. Professor Zelthar, a crystalline from Kepler 442b, refracted the ambient light into prismatic patterns as it addressed the assembled students. Gravitational tolerance, the professor's voice resonated through universal translators, represents the fundamental limiting factor in biological evolution. No known species in the galactic community can naturally survive prolonged exposure to gravitational forces exceeding 0.6 g. The physiological stress would collapse cellular structures, rupture vascular systems, and compress skeletal frameworks beyond functional recovery. Emma Chen sat in her atmospheric pod, designed for Earth's unusual 21% oxygen atmosphere, taking notes on her neural interface. The xenobiology course was mandatory for all new species entering the galactic community, and humanity had been granted provisional membership only 6 months prior. Edward Martinez, her fellow human student, shifted uncomfortably in the adjacent pod. His translator earpiece flickered as he tried to process the professor's statement. "Excuse me, Professor." Edward's hand rose tentatively. The crystalline rotated, light bending through its faceted body to focus attention on the human section. "Yes, Student Edward. I'm confused about something. Earth has 1 g gravity, 9.8 meters per second squared, to be precise. If no species can survive above 0.6 g, then how are Emma and I not crushed right now?" The lecture hall fell silent. 300 alien students turned their various sensory organs toward the humans. Emma felt her heart rate speak, a cardiovascular response possible only because of the very gravity adaptation they were discussing. Professor Crystalline structure dimmed momentarily, the equivalent of a confused pause. "Student Edward, please clarify. Are you stating that your homeworld's gravitational constant is 1 g? "Yes, Professor. Earth is 1 g standard gravity. That's what we base all our measurements on." A Vaporean student in the nitrogen section released a cloud of alarmed pheromones. The chitin class representative from Procyon clicked its mandibles in what the translator rendered as impossible. The professor accessed the galactic database, its internal structure resonating with data queries. The holographic display at the center of the lecture hall flickered to life, showing Earth's planetary specifications. "This must be an error in the translation matrices," Professor Zelthar said, but its voice carried uncertainty. "The database indicates, it confirms, Earth's surface gravity is indeed 9.807 meters per second squared." Emma stood up in her pod, her anthropology training kicking in. "Professor, it's not an error. Humans evolved under 1 g conditions. Our entire physiology is built for it." "That's biologically impossible," interjected Dr. Wormack, a methane breather teaching assistant who floated in a sealed environment sphere. "The skeletal density required alone would make movement prohibitively energetic. The muscular development necessary would demand caloric intake that no sustainable ecosystem could provide. The cardiovascular pressure differential between the brain and extremities would cause constant cerebral hypoxia." Edward pulled up his own data on the shared network. "Our bones have a compressive strength of about 170 meg. Our hearts pump blood at sufficient pressure to maintain circulation against gravity. That's why we have problems with orthostatic hypotension when standing too quickly. We consume roughly 2,000 to 2,500 kilocalories daily, which Earth's ecosystems provided through agricultural development." The lecture hall erupted in translated chaos. A silicate student's grinding stones translated as they must be wearing gravity compensation devices. A chlorine breather's bubbling came through as mechanical beings disguised as biological. Professor Zelthar raised a crystalline appendage, calling for silence. "Students, Edward and Emma, would you consent to a biological scan? I must verify these claims for the academic record." "Of course," Emma said, stepping out of her atmospheric pod. The chamber's air composition automatically adjusted to Earth normal as she approached the central platform. Edward joined her. The professor activated medical scanning equipment designed for xenobiological research. Holographic displays rendered Emma and Edward's internal structures in precise detail. The assembled students watched in stunned silence as the scans revealed the truth: dense calcium phosphate skeletal structures, powerful cardiac muscles generating pressures exceeding 120 millimeters of mercury, vascular systems with check valves preventing muscular tissue comprising 40% of body mass, a respiratory system that processed oxygen under substantial atmospheric pressure. Extraordinary. Professor Zelthar's voice barely registered above a whisper. Your species evolved under these conditions. Naturally, for approximately 4 million years, Emma confirmed. Our ancestors were persistence hunters. We would chase prey until they collapsed from exhaustion. We could do this because our cardiovascular and thermoregulation systems could function efficiently under 1G for hours. A Gossamer student, whose species evolved in 0.3G, spoke through its translator with awe. The energy expenditure must be immense. Every movement fighting against such gravitational force. Edward nodded. That's why human infants are relatively helpless for the first year. They need time to develop the muscular strength just to counteract gravity and achieve bipedal locomotion. Most of our developmental milestones involve overcoming gravitational challenges holding up our heads, sitting, standing, walking. Professor Zelther accessed more data, its crystalline mind processing implications. This explains several anomalies in human behavior observed since first contact. Your delegation's insistence on maintaining Earth normal gravity in your quarters. Your reluctance to use standard galactic transit pods. Your species' unusual physical recreation activities. You mean sports? Emma smiled. Yes, many of our competitive activities involve manipulating objects or our own bodies against gravitational force. Throwing, jumping, lifting weights. Dr. Womack repeated slowly. You deliberately add mass to your bodies and move it against gravity for recreation. And health, Edward added. Without regular resistance exercise, humans actually lose bone density and muscle mass. It's a significant problem for our astronauts in low-gravity environments. We have to exercise 2 hours daily just to maintain baseline functionality. The professor was silent for a long moment, light refracting through its structure in complex patterns that indicated deep thought. Finally, it spoke to the entire assembly. Students, we have witnessed today a profound reminder of biological diversity's true scope. Humanity evolved under conditions we would classify as a high-gravity death world, yet they developed complex civilization, abstract reasoning, and technological sophistication sufficient to achieve interstellar travel. This suggests our models of viable evolutionary pathways require substantial revision. Professor Zelthar turned back to Emma and Edward. I must apologize for my absolute statement at the lecture's beginning. Clearly, at least one species not only survives 1G gravity but thrives in it. This raises fascinating questions about human potential in multi-gravity environments. Emma and Edward exchanged glances. They hadn't even mentioned that Earth's gravity was considered relatively moderate by terrestrial standards, or that humans had successfully adapted to high-altitude, low-oxygen environments, deep-sea pressure variations, and extreme temperature ranges. Perhaps some revelations could wait for future lectures. As the class dispersed, Emma overheard whispered translations from various species, Deathworlders, gravity-resistant biologicals, high-G evolution. She smiled. Humanity's reputation in the galactic community was just beginning to take shape, and it seemed the universe was finally understanding what it meant to be human, creatures forged in the crucible of Earth's demanding physics, carrying that strength to the stars.